At first glance, a brick may seem unremarkable, but often it's the seemingly ordinary that can set the foundation for endless possibilities. Brick by brick, our campus tells and retells our story, challenging us to carry forward a fuller understanding of our past and build a more inclusive future. Within our brick exteriors, we convene great minds to explore with curiosity and create innovative solutions to meet the needs of our rapidly changing world. Together, we travel our well-trodden pathways toward new opportunities to flourish in the present and build deeper connections down the road and around the world. One brick at a time, we strengthen and build our enduring legacy, fusing old and new to go beyond what is imagined, leading the way for all time coming.
Trees within thy halls, dear college, we give praise to thee, to pledge ourselves whatever befalls, to pledge unfailing loyalty. Our hearts are with thee, dear William and Mary, however far we stray. Our noble college, hear us now, thy children sing to thee today. Dear college, old in years and fame, and richly old in honors too, time shall not dull the shining name, whose gleam our songs will e'er renew. And as years go by, dear William and Mary, thy fame will never cease. But each new year rejoice to see thy children's praise to thee increase. We honor thee not for our gain, but to make known thy majesty, thy truth and courage that remain, however harsh the fates may be. And through troublous years, dear William and Mary, our country fought, so thou hast fought, and won and lived to hear thy children singing to thee now. O thou our guardian and our guide, renew our courage every hour, and keep thy spirit by our side, to aid us with its watchful power. Throughout our lives, dear William and Mary, we
Happy Charter Day, William and Mary. Please be seated. To everyone here in Kaplan Arena and watching around the world via live stream, welcome. We are pleased to be joined by Rector Charles Poston and William and Mary's Board of Visitors. Please stand. That's your cue. Also with us are local, state, and federal public officials. Will you please stand? Wherever you are in the arena. We begin this ceremony with the reading of the university's land acknowledgement. Please welcome Matthew Solomon, class of 2024, and president of the American Indian Student Association.
William and Mary acknowledges the indigenous peoples who are the original inhabitants of the lands our campus is on today. The Cherenhaka-Nodaway, Chickahominy, Eastern Chickahominy, Mattaponi, Monacan, Nansmond, Pamunkey, Patawomic, Upper Mattaponi, and Rappahannock tribes, and pay our respects to tribal members, past and present. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Today begins the Brafferton 300th year-long commemoration, the tercentenary of the Brafferton. We are joined by many distinguished tribal leaders. Please stand as you are able when I call your name. Chief Walt Red Hawk Brown and Tribal Council member Thomas G. Hines, class of 78, Cherenhaka-Nodaway Indian Tribe. First Assistant Chief Wayne B. Atkins and Second Assistant Chief Reginald C. Stewart, class of 1986, Chickahominy Indian Tribe. Chief Kenneth Branham, Monacan Indian Nation. Assistant Chief David Henneman, Nansemond Indian Tribe. Chief Lynette Alston and Tribal Council Chair Denise Walters, Nottoway Indian Tribe of Virginia. Chief Robert Gray and Tribal Councilperson Jennifer Dixon, Pamunkey Indian Tribe. Chief Charles Bullock and Tribal Council member Danny Brad Hatch, MA 09, Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia. Chief Frank Adams, Upper Mattaponi Indian Tribe. Chief G. Ann Richardson, Rappahannock Indian Tribe. Executive Director Dante Desiderio and Tribal Council and Governance Advisor Denise Desiderio, Saponi Indian Tribe. Let's get a little bit louder. Please join me in a warm welcome. We are honored by your presence and grateful for your continued partnership. At Charter Day, we recognize members of our community for outstanding accomplishments. You can read more about our award recipients in our program. The Alumni Medallion is the William and Mary Alumni Association's highest honor. At a ceremony tomorrow morning, we will recognize Cindy Satterwhite Jarbo, class of 77, Barb Ramsey, class of 75, Stu Sell, class of 56, and Tom Watkins, class of 74. Please stand as you are able. Last week, we recognized recipients of the Thomas Jefferson Awards and the James Monroe Prize in Civic Leadership. Professor Ron Sims, Professor Stacy Kern-Shear, Yuxin Chin, class of 2023, and Sophia Hagos Haile, also the class of 2023. Would you please stand as you are able? Finally, William and Mary's Royal Charter of 1693 establishes the position of Chancellor. William and Mary's Chancellor is the Honorable Robert M. Gates, class of 1965. Chancellor Gates served as Secretary of Defense, Director of the CIA, and President of Texas A&M University. He has served under 8 U.S. presidents and is the only Secretary of Defense to have served under presidents of different political parties. He exemplifies the highest ideals of public service that sustain democracy in the 21st century. Please join me in welcoming Chancellor Gates.
Thank you, Catherine. You are leading William and Mary in a visionary and ambitious direction. We are so fortunate to have you at the helm as William and Mary's 28th president. Director Poston, and the Board of Visitors, thank you for your continued partnership with President Roe to ensure that this university remains the alma mater of a nation. To our honorary degree recipients, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield and Bobby Ucrop, congratulations. Recognition of your admirable leadership and dedication is well deserved. To our visiting tribal dignitaries, our colleagues at the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation and the Bray School Lab, thank you for your partnership in broadening knowledge of the history of our nation. 60 years ago, yes, I said 60, I walked these grounds as an undergraduate. A history major, I was inspired by the role this small corner of our country and this university played in shaping the United States of America. The nation's founders, leaders from William and Mary prominent among them, wrote a Declaration of Independence and a Constitution encompassing the noblest ideals of freedom and liberty ever to underpin a society and a government. But Americans have always known those ideals were aspirational, that our reality has, from the earliest days, fallen short of what we have professed to believe. Other nations, especially our adversaries, have long pointed out our shortcomings. But what makes our history unique, and what has won the admiration and envy of people all over the world, tens of millions of whom have risked their lives to come here, is our enduring resolve over nearly 2.5 centuries to overcome our imperfections, to strive unceasingly to close the gap between our reality and our ideals. The struggle has been slow and difficult, too often painful and bloody, but we have made steady, often dramatic progress, and we have never given up trying. The hopeful, admirable central theme of the American story is that we have never abandoned, never forsaken the struggle to live up to our ideals of liberty for all, opportunity for all, fairness for all, justice for all. That ongoing struggle to change our reality, to be better, to do better, is in Americans' DNA. That quest is also part of William and Mary's DNA. I am optimistic that we have the power and the means and the will at this university to continue that quest, that unending struggle to find solutions that enable us to continue closing the gap between our reality and our noble aspirations. To find such solutions requires a willingness to listen and to learn from one another, an ability to see and understand other points of view, and the wisdom to calibrate principle and compromise for the greater good. Core to William and Mary's ideals and to its future is the open exchange of ideas, tolerance of different points of view, the willingness to listen and to learn, and the determination of all to defend the freedom of expression of diverse opinions, to seek wisdom in mutual respect, and wherever possible, in bridging differences. These qualities comprise the essence of the William and Mary experience. I have no doubt that today's graduates and scholars of William and Mary have a special role in the American quest, as we have had since our forebears signed the Declaration of Independence. We have a special obligation to embrace that quest as an opportunity as well as a responsibility. And that is the challenge that lies before us, one for which William and Mary has prepared its students for 330 years.
Thank you, Chancellor Gates. We now move to the conferral of honorary degrees. Please join me in welcoming William and Mary's Rector, Charles Poston.
Thank you, President Rowe. On behalf of the Board of Visitors, we wish all of you a happy Charter Day, our 330th anniversary. William and Mary's tradition of conferring honorary degrees dates back to 1756, when Benjamin Franklin became the first recipient of an honorary degree from William and Mary. This year, the board voted to confer honorary degrees on two service-minded leaders, Barbara Berkeley Ucrop and United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas Greenfield. We've prepared videos highlighting their achievements. After each video, Chancellor Gates and I will confer the honorary degree. After the degree conferrals, we will hear remarks from Ambassador Thomas Greenfield.
What legacy do you hope to leave behind?
That's another tough question.
It's a big question. It's a big question for somebody so humble.
Yeah, Bobby's a tough interview. She doesn't like to talk publicly, and she doesn't like to talk about herself, which I think is an exceptional characteristic, and I think the center core of who she is. I personally love the view that humble people are the wisest people, because I think they lean back and listen. I think they are other-centered rather than egotistically centered, and I think that all that matters is the mission and the well-being of other people. So ironically, I don't think there's a tension between humility and excellence. I might even argue it's the key ingredient to the greatest leaders I've ever known.
Bobby is always there for whoever it might be. Her attitude is always glass half full, never half empty.
Bobby and her family's contributions are far and wide. I think she has a deep and loving passion for tribe athletics, both men and women. They've been stalwart supporters.
Jim and I met at William and Mary. He graduated in '60, I graduated in '61. We were married that October. We went to Jamaica on our honeymoon, and we left 3 days early so we could get back for William and Mary homecoming. So that tells you how much it means to us, and it has over these 62 years.
She's been committed to the financial health of the schools in other ways, including chairing the annual fundraising board. She served on the Board of Visitors twice. She cares about the future, innovation, School of Education. These are contributions that I think all of us recognize will have a very, very long and lasting impact.
Bobby's legacy would be two-faced, I think. It would be part William and Mary and part Richmond. Her love for Richmond shows in all her activities. She was president of the Junior League. She was picked by the YMCA as Woman of the Year in volunteerism. I mean, that's huge.
The Richmond community means everything to me. Every person wants to see their capital or their city thrive. I just think it's the important thing to do, just for the well-being of its citizens.
You know, I think Bobby's legacy really is less the act she's done and the example she's provided. I think if people take the time, and I think this honor is a good way to do so and hold her up as someone worthy of emulation, I think her greatest legacy should be to follow her. Follow her example and to act with humility in the way that she models so beautifully.
Mrs. Ucrop, would you join the Chancellor and me at the podium? Barbara Berkeley Ucrop, from the day you became a student at William & Mary, you've exemplified the life of distinguished leadership and resolute service. You've cultivated prosperity and well-being in Richmond and beyond. Your volunteer initiatives span housing, historic preservation, social services, and children's issues. You've shared generously your leadership and energy, chairing such organizations as the United Way of Greater Richmond, Leadership Metro Richmond, the St. James Children's Center, and as a board member of the Historic Richmond Foundation, the Commonwealth Council of the Girl Scouts of America, and the Richmond Better Housing Coalition. As chair of the Annabella R. Jenkins Foundation Board, you were instrumental in launching the Greater Richmond Regional Crisis Hotline number. This resulted in expanding access to community-based services for underserved populations. You have served on the board of the Valentine Museum and as president of the Downtown Presents Board and the Richmond International Film and Music Festival. While advancing the common good throughout Virginia, you have also mentored the next generation here at your alma mater. You have embraced countless leadership opportunities at the university, graciously lending your wisdom and service for 60 years. Your service on the William & Mary Board of Visitors for 2 terms, the William & Mary Foundation Board, your reunion committees, the For the Bold Campaign Committee, and as a member of the Presidential Search Committee in 2004-2005, and as the national chair of the William & Mary Annual Fund. You generously supported programs across the university, including both men's and women's athletics, the swim library, the Alumni Association, the Mason School of Business, and the School of Education. You established the Jim and Bobby Ucrop Innovation and Design Studio with your husband, Jim. This is a space for critical collaboration and innovation. The Innovation and Design Studio will provide lasting benefits for William & Mary students and all the communities they serve for decades to come. Your formidable dedication to leadership and public service is recognized throughout the Commonwealth and especially here at William & Mary. Barbara Berkeley Ucrop, your alma mater, is proud to honor your innovative and faithful service.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Visitors and the ancient royal charter of the College of William & Mary in Virginia, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. Congratulations.
Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield is a force in modern diplomacy. We affectionately call her LTG at the U.S. mission. Before arriving at the UN, LTG spent 35 years in the Foreign Service. She was Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs. She was Director General of the Foreign Service. She served throughout the world, heavily in Africa, in Liberia, where she was ambassador, in the Gambia, in Kenya, in Nigeria. And she's carried that perspective with her to the UN, in particular by ensuring that marginalized voices are present at the table, including in the Security Council, where she's been a strong advocate of inclusivity and reform.
If we want a more equitable world and we want a peaceful world, we really have to address all the implications of inequality, and Linda understands them profoundly. So we're very lucky that she is where she is, in a place where she can help address those issues and bring them to the fore in a constructive way. And not with anger, but with compassion and humility and accessibility.
I have always said compassion, kindness, integrity. These are all values and qualities that we all have to have if we are going to be successful at whatever job we decide we want to do. I've developed this idea of gumbo diplomacy, and it is about having people share what they value over a wonderful meal. When I need a country to vote with the United States, I don't want that to be the first time I've ever called that ambassador. I want to know who that ambassador is, so when I call him, it's not, thank you for calling me Ambassador Thomas Greenfield. It's, hey Linda, what can I do for you?
She is a model for all American ambassadors. Her ability to find common ground in the most challenging circumstances is absolutely astonishing and a model for us all.
We are better diplomats because of LTG. It's a privilege and an honor to call her our ambassador, and now it's equally an honor to call her a fellow alum of William & Mary.
I love my job, and every single day I know that what I'm doing is making a difference, and to be recognized for that, to receive an honorary degree for what I do is a tremendous honor. It's a recognition that what I do actually makes a difference. So I'm really humbled and I'm so appreciative.
Ambassador Thomas Greenfield, would you join me and the Chancellor at the podium, please? Linda Thomas Greenfield, you have dedicated your life to promoting the ideals and interests of the United States of America. Following an illustrious 35-year career with the United States Foreign Service, you answered the call to public service once again in 2021 when President Joseph R. Biden Jr. nominated you as United States Ambassador to the United Nations and to the representative of the United States to the Security Council. With strong bipartisan support, you were confirmed by the United States Senate. You serve as a member of the White House Cabinet, and your immense expertise as a career diplomat has renewed America's global leadership at a pivotal moment at home and abroad. You've become known around the world as the People's Ambassador. You have focused on climate and water-related issues to promote resilience throughout the world's oceans and waterways. You advance inclusivity on a global scale through multilateral diplomacy in undeveloped nations. A leader who lifts you as you climb, you prioritize assisting those seeking careers in diplomacy as a cornerstone of your work. Prior to becoming the United States Ambassador to the United Nations, you held an ambassadorship to Liberia from 2008 to 2012, and postings in Switzerland, Pakistan, Kenya, the Gambia, Nigeria, and Jamaica. In Washington, you served as Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Bureau of African Affairs and as Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration. Growing up, you were the first from your family to graduate from high school. You earned your bachelor's degree from Louisiana State University and completed your master's degree in 1975 at the University of Wisconsin. Your lifetime of public service to the global community has exemplified excellence, and your accomplishments have been recognized worldwide. Linda Thomas Greenfield, your story and your impact inspire faith in the ideals of humanitarianism and diplomacy. The alma mater of the nation is proud to honor you for your fierce dedication and distinguished service.
By virtue of the power vested in me by the Board of Visitors and the ancient royal charter of the College of William and Mary in Virginia, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to get it from you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. President Rowe, Chancellor Gates, Rector Poston, members of the Board of Visitors, distinguished faculty, staff, students, alumni, thank you. Thank you for this tremendous, tremendous honor. It is humbling to look back at all those who have stood in my place as Charter Day speakers, U.S. presidents, foreign dignitaries, artists, authors, Supreme Court justices, members of Congress, your own alumni, and now me. It's a pinch yourself moment. And I'll let you know a little secret. I never finished my PhD program at the University of Wisconsin. So with this honorary doctorate, I'm glad to fill the gap in my resume. So thank you. I also want to congratulate you, Bobby, on your well-deserved honor. It is particularly meaningful to take part in this Charter Day because it coincides with the 300th anniversary of the Braffeton Indian School, a school that was created to educate, clothe, house, and board Native youth. And I hope you'll join me in recognizing members of local tribes who are with us today. Today, we also honor the Bray School, one of the United States' oldest surviving buildings dedicated to Black education. This afternoon, I had the chance to take part in a ceremony to mark the building's move to Colonial Williamsburg historic area. And it was incredibly moving to be joined by descendants of the Bray School community, many of whom are here with us today. I know the Bray students we're honoring today would be particularly proud to see me here on this stage. In so many ways, the story of Braffeton Indian School and the Bray School is the story of America. America in all of its noble ideas and profound contradictions. Let's be honest. The goals of Braffeton's founders were far from pure. This was a time when Native Americans were portrayed by white people as savage and inferior, and Braffeton students were pushed by the school's leaders to assimilate and become quote-unquote civilized. But we must also recognize the historic nature of this school and the power that Native Americans gained from their education. Braffeton students became translators and diplomats for their communities. And despite efforts to whitewash their culture, Native students held on to their traditions, their language, and their sense of self. The Bray School, where roughly 400 free and enslaved African Americans learned to read and write, has a similarly complicated legacy. Ann Wager, the school's sole educator, taught about the benevolence of slavery. African Americans were explicitly taught to accept an inferior place in society. But we know that Bray students, like those at Brafferton, did not give in to the indoctrination. The scholars, as they were known, took advantage of the newfound power that education afforded them. And many passed on their education to other slaves as clandestine teachers. As Nicole Brown, who currently portrays Miss Wager at the Bray School, put it, education, once it is unlocked, cannot be contained. Education, once it is unlocked, cannot be contained. I could not agree more. And this is another pillar in the story of America, a country where academic institutions like William and Mary are some of the world's most envied, where education is seen as an equalizer and it's as essential to America's greatness and prosperity. But here again, nothing is straightforward, because we know educational opportunities have not always been available to all. In fact, in the 19th century, Virginia made it illegal for slaves to learn to read or write at school. The punishment for violating this draconian law, up to 20 lashes. But we also know it wasn't until the 1960s that the first African-American undergraduate student enrolled at William and Mary. So yes, the story of education in America is also one of inequality and segregation, and I can speak to this from personal experience. I grew up in a small town in Louisiana where our schools were segregated. And while my family was full of love, we came from humble means. Neither of my parents were well educated. In fact, they weren't educated at all. When I was growing up, my mom had not finished high school. And I met with a refugee family today, and the mother told me she had not finished high school. And I shared with her my mother's story, my mother got her high school diploma in 1989, 19 years after I received my high school diploma. So it is never, ever too late. My father was one of the smartest people I've ever known, but he was totally illiterate. It is not lost on me that more than a century after the Bray School closed its doors, my parents, two African Americans from the South, were not able to complete their studies. But from an early age, I was determined to become the first in my family to go to college. And when I started at LSU, Louisiana State University, I was one of very few Black students on campus. It was daunting, it was uncomfortable, and I often felt isolated and out of place. But despite these adversities, my education, more than anything, got me to where I am today. I had professors who became my mentors. They expanded my horizons and opened doors for me. And it was my first time at the university. It was at my time at the University of Wisconsin, where I attended graduate school, that led me to pursue a career in international diplomacy. And that career has allowed me to serve our country in posts around the world, from the Gambia and Geneva, Pakistan to Liberia. Over the course of 4 decades, I have worked to strengthen relations between the US and Africa, to address humanitarian crises and help refugees find new homes, And now, as the U.S. representative to the United Nations, I'm working to bring countries together to tackle the global issues of our time. It is an immense privilege to serve the American people. But it is also a weighty responsibility, because like this country's history, like William and Mary's history, today's global challenges are complex, but they need to be addressed with moral clarity. Take the food insecurity crisis, the likes of which none of us have ever seen before. There's no one driver of this crisis. It's the consequence of a perfect storm of global forces. The climate crisis is responsible for rising temperatures, extreme flooding, severe droughts. And these conditions make it harder for farmers to produce crops, which in turn make it harder for countries to provide for their own people. And many countries have to look elsewhere for food. That has become more complicated and costly as COVID-19 has strained supply lines, and high energy costs have made it more expensive to ship food. And protracted conflicts, especially Russia's horrific and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, have pushed tens of millions more people into hunger. Before the war, Ukraine was the breadbasket of the developing world. Unfortunately, Russia has systematically sabotaged and destroyed Ukraine's farmland, infrastructure, and grain stockpiles. And Russia is making it difficult for ships full of food to leave the Black Sea. But while this crisis may be complex, our moral responsibility to the world's most vulnerable is straightforward. We must save lives. We must stave off famine. And after all, those who face famine and acute hunger, but for the accident of time and place, no different from any of us here in this room. And I certainly think about the poor people in Turkey and Syria. 20,000 plus people have died because of this earthquake. 20,000. We have a moral responsibility to provide assistance. Last year, the United States launched a roadmap for global food security at the UN, which more than 100 countries have signed. And we've committed over $5 billion to address this crisis since last March. And just the other week, I was in Somalia, a country plagued by severe droughts and hunger, and I announced an additional $41 million in U.S. assistance. But the truth is, we cannot solve the global hunger crisis. We cannot solve humanitarian crises such as this earthquake, or any other global crisis alone. Other countries must bolster their humanitarian contributions. This is a collective responsibility. I'll give you another example of an issue that on the face of it seems complicated to tackle: the climate crisis. The questions before us are daunting. How can we convince the world to fully transition to renewables? How can we put aside our differences with competitors like China and partner on climate initiatives? And how can we do more to support vulnerable communities in developing countries that are already feeling the acute effects of warming climate? Here too, though the answer is cut and dry, we will do this work because we must. We must do this work. There is no alternative. There's no planet B. Thanks to the persistence of scientists and activists, world leaders finally understand that. And I will tell you that before coming here this morning, I stopped at the Langley NASA operation and saw the extraordinary work that they are doing to address climate change. And I encourage all of you to take that opportunity as well. We're starting to see countries take bold actions, unilaterally and collectively, to protect our environment. Here in the United States, we're leading by the power of our example. This past summer, President Biden signed the largest climate investment in our nation's history into law. And we're working on an international multilateral scale to reach consensus and raise ambitions on lowering carbon emissions. As I mentioned at Langley, I saw a state-of-the-art facility. And again, I encourage you to visit. Their research is being shared with scientists around the world and is being used to inform policymakers. On food security and climate and a host of other issues, our administration has made it clear to the world that American leadership is back. And I'm proud of the progress we've made and the international coalitions we've built. As President Biden said this week at the State of the Union, because of the American people, because of you, our union is strong. Now we have to finish the job and chart an even brighter future. That's where all of you come in. For the students in this room, here at William and Mary, your job is to understand the complexities of the world, to dig deep into the issues of the past, to open your minds to the world's possibilities. And once you leave here, your job is to meet those complexities head on, to cut through them with moral clarity and transform the world into a better, safer, kinder place for us all. I know this sounds like a tall order, but fortunately, you don't have to do it alone. You have amazing faculty, alumni, leaders here today who will be there to guide you and to support you. Today, I want to encourage every young person in the audience to spend at least 2 years in public service. And as a parent, I'm sure parents are looking at you and thinking, oh my God, what is she telling them to do? Don't take a job. This will make them even better qualified for a job. I'm actually biased toward the Peace Corps and toward the Foreign Service. But service doesn't mean you have to join the government or run for office or enlist in the military. There are so many ways to serve. You can be a teacher. You can work at a nonprofit. You can serve your community here at home or in a city halfway across the world. But no matter what you do, find a way to serve. Service will make the world better, but it will also make you better. It will enrich your life, and trust me on that, because I feel I have such a rich life. You will find, as I have, that nothing is more rewarding than a life of service to others. And regardless of the field you go into, whether it's business or academia or engineering, know this: your responsibility to the world is not defined by your title. You always can and always should find time to lend a hand to the world's most vulnerable, to the persecuted, to the not yet free. That is exactly the spirit behind something called the Welcome Corps, a new State Department program that empowers Americans to sponsor and welcome refugees to their communities. And I urge all of you to see how you can take part in this groundbreaking initiative. This morning, I met Tanya Meredith. When Tanya first learned about the Brace School, she dropped everything in her life to come visit. And in that moment, the trajectory of her life changed. She saw the value of this school's history and was determined to share it with others. And so she took a job as the school's first oral historian and is now interviewing descendants of free and enslaved students. Her work is helping to tell the story of the Brace School, but it is also helping to tell the story of William and Mary, of embracing the complexity of history, of seeing the bigger picture, and of finding ways to serve your community. That is why we have gathered here today to celebrate this university's rich history and the 330th anniversary of its charter. Because when we understand our history and our world in all of its triumphs and shortcomings, its promises and complexities, we are better prepared to write the next chapter. And students, I am so excited to see the chapters that you will write, the future you create. Here at William and Mary, your education is being unlocked, and there's nothing on earth that can contain it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Dr. Ambassador, for that inspiring call to service. It is our tradition at this ceremony to read excerpts from William and Mary's Royal Charter. Please join me in welcoming our charter readers, Matthew Solomon, who read our land acknowledgement, Troy Wipongwe of the Global Research Institute, and Dakota Kinsel, class of 2026.
William and Mary, by the grace of God, of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, King and Queen, defenders of the faith, etc. To all to whom these our present letters shall come, greeting. For as much as our well-beloved and faithful subjects, constituting the General Assembly of our colony of Virginia, have had it in their minds
that they may have power to erect, found, and establish a certain place of universal study. Upon the south side of York River, and further, we will, and for us, our heirs and successors. By these presents, do grant that when the said college shall be so erected, made, founded, and established, it shall be called and denominated forever the College of William and Mary in Virginia.
In testimony whereof we have caused these our letters to be made patent, witness ourselves at Westminster, the 8th day of February and the 4th year of our reign, by the writ of the Privy Seal. Thank you.
Thank you, readers. As I shared at the beginning of our ceremony, 2023 marks the 300th anniversary of the Brafferton. Every anniversary is a time to take stock of what was and affirm what we hope may be. 20 years of collaborative research with our neighboring tribes have yielded significant advances, including the creation of William and Mary's Native Studies minor and the launch of the American Indian Resource Center. More recently, our partnerships have expanded in GIS, conservation, anthropology, archaeology, linguistics. Students, faculty, staff, and tribal community members have worked together to seek actionable answers to fundamental questions related to topics of identity and culture. Collaborations in music, writing, and the arts promote creative expression. William and Mary will continue to evolve in the ways this university can serve as a resource to innovate with shared purpose and respect. So as we mark this tercentennial, it is my great pleasure to invite Chief Lynette Alston of the Nottoway Indian Tribe of Virginia to offer a reflection on the Brafferton Indian School.
Greetings and thank you, President Rowe, Chancellor Gates, Rector Poston, and members of the board for the invitation to participate in Charter Day. On May 29th, 1677, tribal leaders and representatives sent by the English King, Charles II, assembled at a camp at Middle Plantation to negotiate and, quote, conclude a good peace with the neighbor Indians. That camp was later called Williamsburg. The resulting treaty sought a stable future. Kokowski, recognized as the primary leader of the Pamunkey people, made her mark on the vellum on behalf of numerous tribal groups, while several other tribes, including the Nottoway and the Nansemond, placed their marks on the treaty as well. Despite these hopes, the 17th century was not a good one for the indigenous people of Virginia and North America. Rather than working together to secure a future, Native people turned their efforts towards survival. 2023 marks the 300th anniversary of the completion of the Brafferton Indian School's construction. The establishment of an Indian school was called for in William and Mary's Royal Charter. The school's story is one of complexity. Tribal leaders are aware that present-day discussions of Indian boarding schools are painful subjects for indigenous people. The 18th century Brafferton School was different from the boarding schools of the 19th and 20th centuries, yet it was a colonial effort and, like many other policies, served to undermine tribal sovereignty and Native culture. At the same time, the school was a place of agency for Native communities. Students were primarily from tribes with treaty relationships to the British. The Pamunkey tribe sent the most students to the Indian school, but students from Chickahominy, Nansemond, Meherrin, Tuscarora, Seneca, Onondaga, Mohawk, Coyaga, Oneida, Nottoway, Cherokee, Wyandotte, Saponi, Susquehannock, and Catawba were educated here as well. Recent research on the Brafferton Indian School's history and impact demonstrates that the Indian students acted not only on behalf of their respective tribes, but surprisingly on behalf of the American cause during the Revolution. Brafferton student Charles Murphy of the Cherokee tribe served as a translator to Patrick Henry, while Robert Scholar, a Brafferton student from the Nottoway tribe, became a trusted treaty negotiator for his people. Another Brafferton student was known to work with George Washington. Scholars now estimate that there are more than 40 tribes across the United States with historical links to the school. After the American Revolution, and with it, the loss of funding from Great Britain, the Brafferton Indian School closed. In the decades that followed, the dogma of racial integrity steadily suppressed the history, and the school's legacy faded. However, during those centuries, Native people did not fade away. Against all odds, we remain. There are 7 federal status tribes and 4 state-recognized tribes in the Commonwealth of Virginia, making our state a landscape of indigenous resurgence. We're here to commemorate and reflect on a point in history. But Virginia's tribes are not prisoners of the past. We're forward-looking. As tribes contemplate a bright new future, we look to William and Mary to respond to the Brafferton Indian School's legacy and to reestablish and strengthen the bonds between the university and the historically affiliated tribal communities to this campus. Like our ancestors who traveled to Williamsburg in 1677 to negotiate a treaty of peace, we've come here in 2023 to construct a new relationship built on the foundation of shared history and mutual respect for all time coming. Nale, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Alston, for such compelling words. We are steadily, purposefully, and actively committed to using William and Mary's prowess in teaching, learning, and research to advance our partnerships with all of you. We've reached a point in the ceremony now where we bring together all of what we've heard and learned. If you look at the cover of your program, you'll see a portion of the famous 1782 Frenchman's map. It includes the Wren Building, the oldest academic building in use in the United States, as well as the Brafferton and the original location of the Bray School. As Chief Alston reminds us, the discovery of so many different histories that have been hidden for too long can strengthen our present and future connections between William and Mary and Williamsburg, our regional partners, descendant communities, and everyone who comes to visit to learn these histories. On Charter Day, we honor all of these connections, looking back with soberness and forward with excitement. In the past year, consistent with our strategic goal of evolving to excel, outlined in Vision 2026, we've taken significant steps to ensure that William and Mary affords opportunity for a broad plurality of our Commonwealth. Beginning next year, William and Mary will cover full tuition and fees at minimum for all in-state Pell Grant recipients. Affording opportunity has been and will continue to be a passionate commitment of this university. Earlier this week, we announced a new commitment that will triple the number of students who receive university funding for internships and applied learning experiences, so that William and Mary graduates can land at their first destination with confidence, whether it's a military commission, a job, graduate school, the Peace Corps, the Foreign Service. Excellence in education is a cornerstone of every healthy, pluralistic democracy. And if there is one thing I know, it is that diversity in our partnerships accelerates innovation, helps us evolve to excel. In describing this year's Charter Day program, our designer noted this, that the intersections on the map show the power of the ampersand. You know, I love that Renaissance graphic. We are both and groundbreaking new discoveries on a historic campus, enduring partnerships reforged around the latest tools of learning and work, to be worthy of a long history of innovation like ours. We must be open to transformation and curious about what we don't expect. So thank you all for bringing that innovative spirit, that spirit of curiosity and new discoveries to William and Mary. And now we have some celebrating to do. I am very pleased to invite the gentlemen of the college to perform a very special arrangement of Happy Birthday, William and Mary.
Happy A happy Charter Day, a great thing to do. Let's celebrate, yeah, celebrate you. So here's a wish on your special day. You're looking great, come celebrate. A happy Charter Day from us to you. From the place where dreams do come true. So here's a wish, 1, 2, 3, 4-part harmony. Happy Charter Day, your special day to you. Happy Charter Day to you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I have just a few more thanks and closing instructions, and then the choir will lead us in the alma mater. Our ceremony was designed by a mighty team of experts. Charter Day committee members, wherever you are, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Thank you also to the William and Mary Wind Ensemble under the direction of Professor Richard Marcus, and the William and Mary Choir, directed by Professor Daniel Parks. So in a moment, the platform party will recess out. Audience, most of you know this routine. You've done it before. You're going to remain in your seat until the recessional has concluded. Students, we'd like you to sign the Charter Day banner located on the mezzanine right and up, and cast your votes for the Royal Court. Really important traditions. The results will be announced this evening at the Green and Gold Bash, hosted by AMP and the Student Assembly, and I will see you there. Now, please stand as you're able and join our wonderful choir in the alma mater. The lyrics are on page 31 of your program. Choir, take it away.